What is up, YouTube? Today I'm coming back at you with another review, and today's review is of another tabletop RPG. This one is not going to be as in-depth or as extensive as my other tabletop RPG reviews, just because this is such a popular version of this game, and so many other people have done that. This is just going to be strictly my opinions on this game and various different thoughts that I have. So today I actually got my first package from Drive-Thru RPG, and that is of the Dungeons & Dragons Rule Cyclopedia. Now, I didn't even know that Wizards of the Coast was reprinting old editions on Drive-Thru RPG. So when I was on there browsing for the first time, I saw this and I was like, wow, I've always wanted to check out the basic versions of D&D. And so I picked up the Rule Cyclopedia, and I'm actually incredibly impressed with the quality and all that. So yeah. So some things that I think about this. Well, let's just go through aspects one at a time, shall we? So characters in this game, the races are actually classes unless you're a human. So humans have the ability to have different classes, whereas demi-humans are strictly a class. So that's something that's different than I'm used to. I actually think it's kind of neat the way that they laid it out. When I first heard about races as classes, I was like, oh, that sounds so stupid. You're locked in, you can't level up all the way. It just sounded really weird to me. But then actually after reading it, it makes a lot of sense, and it actually isn't as bad as I thought, and it actually could be pretty fun. So I actually like having the races as classes. I think that's a pretty cool thing. In this game, you're also able to level up to level 36, which is much higher than I'm used to. I'm used to most of my games maxing out at like level 10, level 20, or something like that. Or even I think Savage Worlds only has 5 levels or something. So this was a huge change, and basically the power levels go from like standard normal people all the way up to immortal level, basically, or just about immortal level. So it's crazy how powerful your characters get, and it has all sorts of things and like leveling up your character and what happens at certain levels, what they should be doing at certain levels, and ideas for what they could be doing at certain levels. So it's very, very extensive, and I think it's actually really neat, the fact that you can become an immortal with defined rules on how to do so in this book. So that was something that I was really excited about, because I've never actually seen that in another RPG, really. I mean, there's always like, yeah, the GM can say, oh, your character's a god now, and that's your reward, or something like that. But this actually has like pathways to becoming immortal and stuff like that. So that's really cool. Something else that's different about this game is it has a descending armor class. Now, that's not really that big of a deal for me. I understand it, and they have some handy charts in here. But what makes it a little interesting, I should say, is the fact that since you go to level 36, I believe, or something like that, your armor table is like, it's huge. It's massive. It goes all the way from like -20 to 10 or something. I can't really remember if I can't find it here. So this book is a 3-column book. So there's a lot of content in here. Let's see if I can't find that table real quick. Is that it? Nope. Alright, so I have no idea where it is. But it is like this massive table. I think it goes from -20 all the way up to 10, which is the worst armor class you can have is like 10. So that's kind of interesting. But what I do like about the descending armor class is on your character sheet for the Rule Cyclopedia, there is a spot for adding your 2-hit armor class 0 table. So you can, as you level up, you can change the values, and so you don't have to keep flipping through the book to see what you have to roll in order to hit armor class 0 or something. I think it goes down to -3 on the character sheet. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. I like that. What else is in here? There's a ton of different spells. There are lots of different rules. I like the fact that there's rules in here for like mass combat. That's kind of neat. so that if your character does decide to build a castle and own land and stuff, you can hire an army to protect your castle and stuff like that, or you can hire an army and just like siege a castle and try to take over a castle, which is very cool. Don't really see that in Pathfinder, or I didn't really see that in D&D 5th edition. So unless that's in the DM's guide, because I don't have that yet. But yeah, this is a really nice book. I really like the fact that it's all self-contained. It has a bestiary, your DM stuff, all your character creation options. Everything's in this one book, which makes it really nice, including like setting materials like maps, info about the worlds. Actually, there's also, I think there's 2 different worlds in here that you can adventure on. They have the D&D like main world, and then you have the Hollow world, which is, I guess, inherently different than the D&D world. But also one thing that's really nice about this is multiple times throughout this book it mentions creating what the DM might do when they create their own campaign. So unlike D&D 5th edition and other modern D&D versions, it doesn't really leave off the fact that, yeah, people are probably going to play their own homebrew campaigns. So it kind of addresses that in here, which is kind of nice. Not that it really needed to, but it does say, like, well, the DM might do this if it's a homebrew campaign. Or, for instance, like, it's in the racial section, it says the DM will come up with a reason why dwarves and elves don't like each other in their homebrew campaign unless they're using like the D&D world or whatever. So that's kind of cool. I really like the selection of equipment, and basically this thing has a ton of optional rules. Now, one thing I don't like particularly about this book is where the optional rules are put. They're just scattered throughout the entire book. So like, as you're flipping through certain sections, randomly you'll find a section that has parentheses optional next to it, and there's just an optional rule chilling there. Now, they're put in relevant sections. However, I really rather would have all the optional rules in like one separate section towards the back of the book, rather than scattered throughout the main rules section. So then you're not, when you're trying to reference what rules are optional, you're not flipping back and forth through a bunch of chapters, instead of just having one optional rules chapter. So that's one downside to this book, really. Other than that, it's a basically this plays and this feels like the same thing as like your standard D20 D&D. A lot of the rules are very similar, it all feels very similar, and it all functions very similarly to modern D&D, just a lot more slimmed down and not as complex, which is really nice. It's a lot more simple of a game, which is, I guess, is why it's called basic D&D. But there are a ton of optional rules and like things that are added on that still keep it simple, but give you a lot of variety. So that's really, really cool. I like the way that they did all the extra little things like siege engines and storming castles and like little rules like that are simple enough to understand and don't really ruin the basicness of this game, but also give it a lot more stuff to do that you can do. So really happy to have this, and it's a great book. It's got a great bestiary in here, so you have a ton of monsters to pick through, and it's got a bunch of lore in here as well, and like how things work, and a bunch of charts and stuff like that. And there's a lot of spells and monsters in this version of the game that aren't in other versions, so that's kind of interesting. So it makes it a very unique experience, I think, and it has its own little flavor added onto D&D. It's like a D&D, it's basically D&D but with like a slight twist, and it has its own unique little thing going on, and I really appreciate this book, and I'm super happy to own it. I got the hardback version. Now, one thing I do want to touch on is the quality of this book, because I was very worried about what the quality was going to be like with Drive-Thru-RPG. So, for reference, this is the hardback standard heavyweight color book. So what that means is it's the hardback cover with heavyweight color pages with standard print. Now there's also some books, this was not an option for this book, but some offer a premium color, and basically what the difference is, the premium color is just a higher quality richness to the colors using a different type of printing. But the paper quality is the same if it's heavyweight. Now there's also some books in Drive-Thru RPG that are not heavyweight premium paper. They also have color standard, so I don't know what that's going to be like, but this is sort of like the middle, and a lot of books that are printed with color are going to be the color standard heavyweight, and that's what this is. And overall I think it's a fantastic quality. I think this quality right here is better than anything you could probably get on Lulu. The case wrap is much tighter and feels much more professionally done than the case wrap on Lulu. The page is much thicker. The paper quality is fantastic and top-notch paper quality. I think it will hold up really well. Now the only thing that I think Lulu has as an edge over Drive-Thru RPG, and I'm assuming this is going to be the way for all of their bindings, is it's a no fabric binding. It's got just glue with a paper back rather than a fabric back, so that means the backing of the paper is going to be a little bit less sturdy than something you would get from Lulu. Because although Lulu uses a thinner weight paper, you get a fabric glue on the spine, so that's going to be the main difference there. But I did order a book that has the black and white standard weight paper that is hardcover, and I'll do a direct comparison because that's the kind of hardcover you'll get when you do it through Lulu, and I'll do a direct comparison of the Lulu hardcover and the black and white hardcover from Drive-Thru, and we'll get to see similar price point, similar quality, and overall which one I think will be better. But overall, I think if you're in the market for a rule cyclopedia, there's no reason to get an old version anymore, because honestly, the quality of this book is fantastic. The hardcover is professional. It looks completely professionally done. Now, I will say on the inside, and this is going to vary depending on what kind of book you get, for an old book like this that was made before they saved everything in digital PDFs and stuff, what they have to do is they have to scan every single page in the book, and then they reprint it from a scan, which makes the text a little bit blurrier. But it's not honestly, for a scanned text document, it's perfectly legible, and I wouldn't really see any issues with it. One thing you will notice though is on certain pages, you will see a slight difference in the color from the inside of the page to the outside. So in the original version, it was full bleed print, whereas this is not. So what you'll see is a slight off-white box where all the text and stuff is, and then the edges will be perfectly white. That's just something you're going to get from a scanned version of a book. It's not really that distracting. On some pages you'll notice it. I did also notice in one particular page in the bestiary when I was flipping through, during the scanning process somebody's hair got on one of the pages, so when they scanned it there's actually a hair printed onto one of the pages. It's not too terribly noticeable. It's a really thin hair and it's not that bad, not that long or anything. It's about, I would say, half an inch maybe, so it's not that bad, but it's just something you're going to have to take into consideration when you're getting a scanned book like this. But considering the price point, whereas a normal old rule cyclopedia is going to be probably about 70, 80 bucks, and this cost me about 30 bucks, there's no reason not to buy it. It's a fantastic quality, and I have no doubt that this will last for many years, so definitely worth checking out that. And I also picked up something else, and this is not the end of the review. I'm still going to talk a little bit about something in this book in particular. I also picked up the Creature Catalog. Now this is also a standard heavyweight colored book, but this is the paperback version. I really, really like the quality of their covers. Their covers are glossy, but they're not overly glossy like the ones you get from Lulu. The ones you get from Lulu are like incredibly shiny and incredibly glossy. This is like a glossy but still legible under light sort of thing. The covers are much more noticeably scanned for the Creature Catalog, so you do have a little bit more blur on this one. But the pages look much better in the creature catalog than they do the rules cyclopedia. The text is much clearer and stuff like that, which is nice. And also the color on these pages is fantastic. So one thing that I did want to talk about that I'm actually really excited about, I know that Basic Fantasy RPG is based off of Basic D&D. And so when I was looking through this creature catalog, I started to notice this is set up the exact same way as the bestiary in Basic Fantasy. And I was looking at it, and I'm pretty sure you can do a direct conversion with very little effort from the Rules Cyclopedia monsters to Basic Fantasy RPG. So if you want to play Basic Fantasy RPG and you're looking for more creatures, and because all they've got is the field guide right now, because the field guide 2 hasn't come out in print yet. If you want to get some more stuff, the creature catalog is definitely a way to go. You have over 150 creatures. Every single one has a picture, and they all seem to be pretty compatible with Basic Fantasy. And it's a really nice book, and this only cost me $20, so definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a bestiary for Basic Fantasy. In addition to the field guide, this is definitely one to check out there. The Rules Cyclopedia also has some monsters in it, but I mean, if you're buying the Rules Cyclopedia, you're probably going to play the Rules Cyclopedia. So, I mean, if you're not interested in playing the Rules Cyclopedia, I recommend going for the creature catalog for monsters rather than the Rules Cyclopedia, because you're going to get a lot more in this than you will in this. And just overall, this is going to be a heavier book and stuff. But I'm really happy to get this book. I know I kind of rambled on at the end there, but it's a great version of D&D. I honestly think so far from reading this could be my favorite version of D&D. I could see myself, and the thing about this game is I could see myself playing this for a very long time. It's got so much content packed in here. The fact that you have levels 1 to 36 means you can play this game with a single character for years. It's outrageous. This also gives the rules for like XP from monsters, XP from role-playing, and XP from treasure. So you don't just have one way to do XP. And there's a lot of different variables in here, which just makes it, I think, from everything that I've read, I think 5th edition is great, and I think it's very accessible. But my personal favorite so far out of all the Dungeons & Dragons editions that I've seen is, it might be this. I mean, I love Pathfinder, but this has just as much stuff to do as Pathfinder, but in a much simpler package. So I'm actually incredibly surprised that I like it this much. If you watch to the end of this video, kudos to you. I didn't really think anyone would want to see me ramble that much. But yeah, I'm actually really excited to have this. So let me know what you guys think in the comment box below. I read and respond to all my comments. What do you guys think of the Rules Cyclopedia? Did you know that you can get it as a print on demand? I didn't. Are you interested in playing it? Are you currently playing any games with it? Or anything like that? I mean, I think it's a great package. I mean, these 2 books have enough for a lifetime of adventures. So I think it's a great value, because I think in total I spent less than $60 on all this stuff. So definitely worth checking out if you're on a budget. So let me know what you guys think in the comment box below. That's all I have for you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.